Hello and welcome all Standard 10 students on this discussion of geography map reading. So, friends, today we are going to understand what is a map, how to read a map, and how to fill the information in the given map. Students, you all very well know that maps are an indispensable part of geography. So, let us see what do you mean by a map. Maps is a symbolic representation of selected characteristics of a particular region which are drawn on a flat surface. Maps can represent various information about that region or a place, right? So maps are basically flat surface representation of an entire region, be it a country, be it a state, be it a continent or the world, right? So what are some of the common features of the map? Some of the common features of the map are direction. Every map has an arrow or some way of representing the four important directions. The next feature that we have is grids. There are grids of latitudes and longitudes on most of the map. They help us locate the extent of a region. The third important thing is the scale. Scale determines and tells us how that given map is actually connected with the real distance on the earth. This relation is highlighted by the scale. And the last but not the least, the important feature of a map is the symbols. Various different symbols are used to represent various different things, say like population, animals, crops, etc. Each one has a particular symbol associated with it, which we use in the maps to represent these features, right? Let us see one by one each feature in detail. But before going ahead, let me tell you one thing, that the different types of maps used, be it the type based on what feature is being displayed, or be it a map which has a different method of representing the same feature. There are various types of map and understanding them is extremely important. So let us go ahead. The first feature that we saw was direction. Again, direction is the north arrow as we call it. It shows the north direction and the remaining four sides show the west, east as well as south direction. Also, there are certain maps which do not use this arrow. There are latitudes and longitudes with the help of which we understand the direction. We will look at it when we come across a map in the next slide. The next feature, as we know, was about the grids of latitudes and longitudes. The latitudes, which are horizontal lines, horizontal circles which are parallel to the equator, and longitudes, which are semicircular lines from the north pole up to the south pole, which form a net of vertical lines. So, grids are also important to understand the extent of a region as well as the location of the region with respect to the entire map. The next important feature that we come across is scale. Again, as I said, scale are very important to show a particular region on the required size of the map. Obviously, we do not show the actual scale, right? How can we represent even a city in the actual scale? So we reduce it and show it. But what scale is used? How proportional is it to the actual distances is determined with the help of the scale. Now, when we have come across to the scale, let us again repeat these three with the help of maps. Let us see these features with the help of a map. Here we have a map of India. Do you see a direction arrow in this map? Yes, this is the direction arrow which shows that this is the north side, that is the west side, this is the east and this is south side. So, direction arrow is extremely important. As I said earlier, there is one more way of understanding directions in the map if the arrow is not mentioned. What is it? It is the latitude and longitude. If you observe very closely, friends, over here we see a letter N besides the number. That is a latitude, a north latitude. So we understand, and these numbers are growing from bottom to the top, right? So the north is on the top and the south is on the bottom. Similarly, the number with E represents east or eastern hemisphere. Again, these numbers increase from the left hand side and go on increasing to the right hand side, which indicates that the right hand side is the east direction and the left hand side is the west direction. Either of these two ways are used to represent the direction on a given map. Now, after direction, we also see the grids of latitudes and longitudes. As I mentioned, that grids are extremely important to understand the location of a given region or a place or a country with respect to the entire map, or to also understand the extent of the region. What do you mean by extent of a region? Let us take an example. Before going ahead, let me tell you the latitude. When it comes to latitude, the most important latitude is the 0 degree latitude, which we also call as equator. The other latitudes run parallel to it, right? The latitudes which are above the equator run parallel up till the North Pole, and those which are parallel to equator below it run parallel up till the South Pole. Okay. Now, similarly, the most important longitude with reference of which we decide which one is eastern hemisphere and which one is western hemisphere, that latitude, the 0 degree latitude, is also known as prime meridian. Friends, you have already studied that the prime meridian passes through the Greenwich city, right? So, now let us understand the extent of, say, South Africa or the entire African continent. Let us understand the extent of the African continent. Now, the African continent stretches from 37 degree 12 minutes to the north up to 34 degree 40 minutes south. So, the latitude on the top of the African continent is 37 degree 12 minutes north and 34 degree 40 minutes south. Why does it extend from a north latitude to south latitude? Surely because it extends or expands in both the northern as well as southern hemisphere. So, the equator passes through this continent, some of which is in the northern hemisphere, some of which is in the southern hemisphere. Similarly, if we try to understand the longitudes part of it, what is the extent of longitudes? The extreme leftmost longitude touching the South African continent is the 17 degree 10 minutes west, and it goes up to 51 degree 10 minutes east. So, it goes from 17 degree 10 minutes west to 51 degree 10 minutes east. Again, we see that it crosses from western hemisphere to eastern hemisphere, which again indicates that the 0 degree prime meridian passes through the African continent. So, see, it becomes very clear to us that this continent lies in both northern, southern as well as eastern and western hemispheres. How easy it is to understand the location of a particular continent or the country with the help of these grids of latitudes and longitudes. Why not let us understand also the latitudes and longitudes of our country, India? Let us see. Now, where do we find India in this world map? It's over here. Now, if we try to understand the extent of India, it is from 8 degree 4 minutes north up till 37 degree 6 minutes north. Again, 8 degree 4 minutes north to 37 degree 6 minutes north, which means both the latitudes on the extreme end are in northern hemisphere. Our entire country is in the northern hemisphere. Moving ahead, let's see the longitudinal extent. Now, the longitudinal extent, as I see, would start from 68 degree 7 minutes east up to 97 degree 25 minutes east. So, it starts with the eastern longitude and ends with the eastern longitude, which means our entire country lies in the eastern hemisphere. See, it becomes very clear with the help of the grids of latitudes and longitudes where a particular country or a continent or any region lies on the world map, or for that matter, any map, right? So, grids again are very important aspect of a map. Now, after grids, the next important feature, as we have discussed earlier, is the scale. As I said, scale determines what is the region and how proportionally we have reduced it to be represented on this flat surface of map. Here we have an example of a India political map. Now, as I said, a map's scale is the relation between the distance of two places or two regions or the distance of a region on a map as compared to the actual distance on the earth. So here we understand that scale also is an important aspect of map. Now let us understand what are the different types of scales. So the first type of a scale which is generally used is a graphic scale, where every centimeter, for example, in the given example, we have 1 centimeter is equal to 100 kilometers. Have you seen this scale anywhere in the earlier maps? Let's go back one slide and see if we have seen this scale. So it was in this map that we have seen this graphical scale used to represent the region of India, right? So again, let's move ahead. The first type was graphical scale, where each centimeter is equal to 100 kilometers, is an example given over here. The next way of showing a scale is known as verbal scale. What do you mean by verbal scale? Verbal here means the scale is explained or mentioned with pure help of words. There is no graphical, there are no numbers, the numbers are written in words. That's why it is known as verbal scale. For example, 1 centimeter represents 1 kilometer. The next type of a scale again is an important type, which is a representative fraction or representative ratio. Obviously, we all know what is the fraction, what is the ratio, and here the ratio is the scale on the map to the scale on the actual earth. For example, when it says 1 is to 1 lakh, now 1 is to 1 lakh means 1 centimeter on the map is equal to, or it represents 1 lakh centimeter on the actual earth. So if example we take as the distance between two cities on the map is 10 centimeters, which means the actual distance between those two cities in real life on the earth is 10 into 1 lakh centimeters. So this is how the scale helps us to convert the distances on the map into actual distances. So after understanding the types of scales, we have to now see how different types of maps are based on different types of scales, or how different types of maps are based on scales, right? The first type that we understand is large scale map. What do you mean by large scale map? Large scale map essentially means that a map where a particular region is shown in a larger size. A particular region is shown in a larger size in a large scale map. As we see, the definition is it shows an area in a greater size where the objects on the map are easily seen, right? So an area shown in a greater size in a large scale map. We can see all the details. Here we can see the state boundaries, international boundary of the country, the capital city, the seas, the neighboring countries, everything can be seen clearly in a large scale map. Next that we see is a small scale map. What is a small scale map? Small scale map is the same region will be shown in a smaller size. For example, we were looking at a map of India. Now in this map that we have here, India is shown in a smaller size, and hence we call this as a small scale map, where the objects, the individual components of the map are shown in a smaller size, although the map is of a larger area. Yes, students, the map is of a larger area, but the objects are of smaller size, and hence it's called a small scale map. Both of the maps are used alternatively depending upon its application of study in geography. So after understanding the different types of maps based on scale, we also need to understand that today there are several maps which are computerized. All of you used mobile phones, and in that you have map application which allows you to zoom into a particular place or to zoom out and understand an overview of that place. This zoom in, zoom out facility is actually changing of scales. You do not realize it, but yes, you are actually changing the scale of the map. When you zoom in, when you want to know a particular place in Mumbai, you zoom in. When you want to know a particular place in Maharashtra, you zoom in. You understand its routes, you understand the roads, you understand the railway network. So maps of today are computerized, which allows the user to zoom in and zoom out, thus changing the scale of the map. Yes, that is very important to note. So after understanding scale, the different types of maps based on scale, let us move to the next feature, which is symbols. As I said in the beginning, symbols. There are particular symbols for particular features to be shown on the map. These symbols have been pre-decided by some authority. So now let us see what are some typical symbols. So for example, if you want to show a post office, it is shown by a simple PO. If you want to show a harbor, it is shown by an anchor of this type. A lighthouse is shown by this type of a symbol. For example, a fort is shown by this type of a symbol. A burial ground is shown by this type of a symbol. Also, there is a particular way in which the international boundary of any nation, of any country is shown. So, how it is shown? It is shown by this type of a dotted line. If you see very carefully, every alternate dotted line is of different length. So, it is kind of a dot and dash line, right? One line is small in size, the next line is large in size. Only in this particular fashion should international boundary line be shown. So, such symbols are mandatory to be used and which are pre-decided. For features, for things whose symbols have not been pre-decided, you may use a symbol which is appropriate. For example, to show an airport, you have to draw a small aeroplane, a small shape of an aeroplane. To show houses or settlements, you will be drawing a small hut shape. For showing, say, crops, you show one small crop in the design of a crop. Alright, these should be simple symbols but indicative of that feature only. That's why I said symbol is a important aspect in showing map. Now, we also saw that maps are made based on special themes. I mentioned to you earlier that there are various types of maps, either based on the features to be shown or based on the type or the method used to represent that feature. So here we will understand some different types of maps. Okay. So maps are prepared with the help of themes. So first we will see maps which are based on different themes. And what are the different themes that we have got? Political maps, for example. Political maps are only based on the regions, how the country is divided for governance. Like India is divided into various states for the purpose of better governance. A political map will show you all the important state boundaries. It will show you all the important cities, including its capital city. It will also show you the political neighboring countries of India, as well as the water bodies who share a common boundary with our international boundary. So this is known as political map. Now, we need also maps which have or which show hills, rivers and various physiographic features. What type of maps are those? Those are known as physical maps. Yes. Now, physical maps show us a variety of things. Let us see what are the different types of physical maps, or what are the different ways of showing features in a physical map. The first method that we use to show slope or relief in a physical map is the contour line methods. Now, contour line method is already studied by you in earlier standards, right? So, contour line method is essentially used to show slope of a mountain, whether it's steep, whether it's gentle, we understand with contour line method. The another method that is used to show relief and slope is known as layer tinting method. This is a very interesting method where a particular shade of a color or particular pattern is decided for a particular altitude. So, various altitudes will have different shades or different patterns, and accordingly these layers are given on the map, which tells us exactly which area is of high altitude or which area is of lower altitude. Let us take an example. We have got a map of India. Here we will start filling it by shades of different altitudes, starting from the highest shade. Okay. Now, if you will see colors being filled in this map, the first color filled is of the area with highest altitude. Going ahead, we have colors coming in of areas with the little lower altitude. Further going ahead, we have areas of plains, and further going ahead, we have areas of the lowest altitude, which are the coastal regions. So understand, my friend, every shade here tells us areas of different altitudes. We started with the area of highest altitude near the Himalayas. We went on with the area of little lower altitude near the Deccan Plateau. Then we went ahead with the area of little more lower altitude in the Ganga Plains. And further ahead at the lowest altitude was our coastal regions. So see, layer tinting method is also very important to show physiographic features. We very well understand what lies where with the help of this method. Apart from these two methods, there is another method which is also used to understand the relief or the slope or the different physiographic features of a region. That method is known as digital elevation method. Now, digital elevation method is a method which uses latest technology. It uses computers and it shades the region accordingly. Alright. So, with these three methods, we can understand the relief features, the physiographic features of a region. Apart from these theme related maps, there are something known as distributional maps. Now, these type of maps are also called as thematic maps. What are distribution related maps? The distributional maps basically are maps which show distribution of a particular feature or particular characteristic of the region. The three different methods used to show distributional maps are, the first one is dot method. Now, in a dot method, various dots are used to indicate a particular feature of the region. Let's say population. So, dots are used where each dot represents a particular population. For example, here one dot represents 2 lakh people, right? Also, the number of dots in a region will determine the density of population. Here we can see there is a huge density of population in these areas. There is very less density of population in the western areas. There is extremely less density of population in the northern region in Jammu and Kashmir. So, this dot method of showing distribution of population is extremely useful. It clearly indicates what we want to know. It is very essential to understand how to read this kind of maps as well. Apart from dot method, the next method that we use is known as the choropleth method. Now friends, you have also studied both this dot method as well as choropleth method in your earlier standards, right? Now let us have a small glimpse of the choropleth method. Again, choropleth method also uses various shades for various categories of values of the required feature. Again, we are using population density as the example, and various shades are used to indicate different categories of population density. So, let us see how these colors are being filled up so that we understand how choropleth method actually functions. So, we see first the regions of the lowest density, population density were shaded, with slowly increasing onto regions with higher density, and last with the highest density. So, here we see Jammu and Kashmir have the lowest density while the Ganga Plains area has the highest density. This is a choropleth method, is very useful for showing distributional maps. Going ahead, the last but absolutely important method of showing distribution in a map is the isopleth method. Now, isopleth method, what it does is it basically connects same values of a particular feature in a given map with a line. Okay, let us clear this concept with the example over here. If you see, some lines are drawn in this map, right? Also, if you observe, each line is denoted by some magnitude or some value. For example, we see 26 besides a line, we see 29 besides this small circular line, we see 20 besides this line, right? So, numbers are associated. And what are these lines? Here in the index, we have written that this line indicates the temperature in degree centigrade. So, the temperature where this line is mentioned is 20 degrees centigrade. Over here, it's say 26 degrees centigrade. So, basically, areas with same temperatures have been connected with a line, which makes us understand, all right, which regions have got the same temperature, which regions have got a lower temperature, where in our country we have regions with the similar temperature conditions. So, isopleth maps are very important from this perspective. Let us take another example of isopleth map. With this same map, let us show another feature. Now, we can also show isopleth maps by shading in some colors like this. So, here we are trying to show the rainfall, right? we are trying to show the annual average rainfall with the help of isopleth maps. The boundaries of these shaded regions indicate areas with same type of rainfall or same measure of rainfall. As we see here that the highest rainfall northeast is on certain regions on the western coast as also in the eastern states. We all know that Cherrapunji is the records the highest rainfall in the entire world, which lies in the northeastern states of India. All right. So here we clearly understand where we have higher rainfall and where we have lower rainfall. So these are the three important type of distributional maps that we see. And with this, we have studied all the various types of maps that will come in reading the map section. So you are now ready to read different types of maps and to answer the questions based on those maps. Be it a physical map, be it a political map, be it a distributional map, be it a thematic map. Whatever type of map comes, you are ready to read the map and answer the questions based on it. But apart from reading, you also have to fill information in the map. Again, that's very easy if you understand the reading of maps. But friends, there are certain tricks, certain precautions, certain points to be noted while you fill information in the map. Okay, let us see these points one by one. The first point that we need to understand is use appropriate symbols. I have been highlighting this throughout this discussion, right? We have given you certain symbols which are already decided, and I have also told you to decide symbols which have not been pre-decided, use appropriate signs like for aeroplane, an aeroplane for airport, etc. The second important point to remember while filling a map is to ensure proper location of that region on the map. Again, for this, you need to study that chapter or the subject very carefully so that you understand where in that region, say you have to locate the Rajasthan desert in India, you need to understand where, on which side of India does the Rajasthan desert occur. Okay. The next important point is how to locate crops. Now friends, we all know that crops or cultivation occurs more in a river basin where the soil is fertile, where the conditions are more favorable for cultivation. So crops can be located easily if you generally know what climate they require and which is the nearest river basin. So you can locate crops in that river basins. Also, to locate animals, you need to understand the habitat of animals. You need to understand whether the animals survive in a colder habitat or it requires hot and humid habitat. Accordingly, you can understand which region to be used. Hence, you need to understand the habitat of the animals while locating them on maps. The next point that we see is how to locate a river basin on the map. River basin can be shown by locating their main river and also its tributaries. Friends, you know that a river basin is not created or formed only by one river. There are various tributaries of the river which contributes in the formation of that river basin. So whenever they ask you to locate a river basin, don't just draw the main river, but also mention all its tributaries. If possible, name most of its tributaries. That will give an additional weightage to your answer. Going ahead, the next important point is while using choropleth map. Now, while using choropleth map, we know there are two main important points. First, we have to group them properly, categorize them properly, say 100 to 200 according to the values of the feature that you are showing. Apart from that, use appropriate and distinct shading for each category. Okay, do not each category should have a distinct shading. They should not overlap or they should not look similar. Please take care of this while using choropleth map. All right. So with this, we understand what are the different important points to be noted, but there are three most important things which should be there in all the maps that you draw. What are these? They are the title of the map, the direction arrow, and the index. And as we can see in the example map given over here, we have the title of the map, India Physical. We have a north facing direction arrow which shows us what is the direction. And last but not the least, we also have an index of the various features, index of the symbols used. You need to write what symbol is for which meaning. Also, if you have categories of you have used tilting method or say choropleth method, you have to mention which color indicates which altitude or which color indicates what density, which is everything. These information can be inculcated in the index part of it. So friends, with this, we understand what are the various informations required, what are the various points to be remembered, what are the various tricks to be remembered while filling a map. Now, you might be thinking, who actually makes this map? Who is responsible for preparing these maps? In India, the foremost organization which is responsible for preparing this map is the Survey of India. And the headquarters of this organization are located in Dehradun in Uttarakhand. Alright. So with this, we come to the end of our discussion on map reading of geography subject of standard 10th. Hope you have understood and liked this discussion. So please do like, share and subscribe this video of Target Publication on YouTube channel. Thank you so much.